Brought to you by WikiVidi.com. Daenerys Targaryen. Daenerys Targaryen is a fictional character in George R.R. Martin's A Song of Ice and Fire series of novels, as well as the television adaptation, Game of Thrones, where she is portrayed by Emilia Clarke. In the novels, she is a prominent point-of-view character. She is considered one of the author's finest creations and most popular characters by the New York Times. Introduced in 1996's A Game of Thrones, Daenerys is one of the last confirmed members of House Targaryen who, until 15 years before the events of the first novel, had ruled from the Iron Throne for nearly 300 years. She subsequently appeared in A Clash of Kings and A Storm of Swords. Daenerys was one of a few prominent characters not included in 2005's A Feast for Crows, but returned in the next novel, A Dance with Dragons. In the story, Daenerys is a young woman in her early teens living in Essos across the Narrow Sea. Knowing no other life than one of exile, she remains dependent on her abusive older brother, Viserys. The timid and meek girl finds herself betrothed to Dothraki horse lord Khal Drogo to ensure Viserys an army for his return to Westeros and recapture of the Iron Throne. Despite this, her brother loses the ability to control her as Daenerys finds herself adapting to life with a Khal and emerges as a strong, confident and courageous woman. She becomes the heir of the Targaryen dynasty after her brother's death and plans to reclaim the Iron Throne herself, seeing it as her birthright. Her pregnant Daenerys loses her husband and child, but soon helps hatch 3 dragons from their eggs, which regard her as their mother, providing her with a tactical advantage and prestige. Over time, she struggles to maintain control of her dragons, which grow dangerous. She also acquires an army with which she conquers the cities of Yunkai, Astapor and Meereen, determined to end slavery and injustice there. Despite her strong moral compass, she is capable of dealing ruthlessly with her enemies, particularly the slave masters. After establishing herself as a powerful and relentless ruler, she sails for her homeland of Westeros, bent on reclaiming the Seven Kingdoms. Well received by critics and fans alike, Clarke received Primetime Emmy Award nominations for Outstanding Supporting Actress in a Drama Series for her performance as Daenerys in the HBO series in 2013, 2015, and 2016. She has also earned numerous other nominations and accolades for her portrayal. Character description: Daenerys Targaryen is the daughter of King Aerys II Targaryen and his sister wife Queen Rhaella, and is one of the last survivors of House Targaryen. She serves as the third-person narrator of 31 chapters throughout A Game of Thrones, A Clash of Kings, A Storm of Swords, and A Dance with Dragons. She is the only monarch claimant to a throne given point-of-view chapters in the novels, 13 years before the events of the series, after her father and eldest brother Rhaegar were killed during Robert's Rebellion. Daenerys was born in the midst of a great storm, earning her the nickname Stormborn. Rhaella died in childbirth and Daenerys was whisked away to Braavos with her older brother Viserys. They spent the following years wandering the free cities. A Game of Thrones. In A Game of Thrones, Daenerys is forced to marry Khal Drogo, a Dothraki warlord, in exchange for an army for her brother Viserys Targaryen. At that time, Daenerys befriends Jorah Mormont, an exiled Westerosi knight, and is given 3 petrified dragon eggs as a wedding gift. Though initially terrified of Drogo, Daenerys grew to love him and began to take to Dothraki customs, finding strength and determination for the first time, which leads her to stand up to Viserys' attempts to bully her into coercing Drogo. After Drogo kills Viserys by pouring molten gold atop his head for threatening his wife, Daenerys sees herself as the heir to the Targaryen dynasty and responsible for reclaiming the throne for her family. Shortly thereafter, Drogo is wounded in a fight, and the cut festers. Drogo's warriors abandon him. Daenerys recruits a witch to save Drogo, but despite being saved by Daenerys from being raped by the tribe's warriors, the witch betrays her, killing Daenerys' unborn child and leaving Drogo in a catatonic state. Daenerys does not want her husband to suffer any longer and smothers him. She climbs on top of Drogo's funeral pyre with her 3 dragon eggs and emerges unharmed with 3 hatched dragons. A Clash of Kings. Leading the remnants of Drogo's Khazar through the Red Waste, Daenerys arrives in the city of Qarth. There she begins appealing to the rulers of the city for aid in reclaiming the Iron Throne, and meets little success. She eventually accepts an invitation from a group of warlocks to discover her future. At their tower, Daenerys sees several visions and learns that the warlocks intend to keep her prisoner, but she escapes after Drogon sets fire to the warlocks' masters, the Undying Ones. Before departing, she is nearly assassinated, but is saved by Arstan Whitebeard, who arrives with 3 ships as a gift. A Storm of Swords. Seeking an army, Daenerys sails to Astapor in Slavers Bay to purchase an army of unsullied slave soldiers in exchange for a dragon. But she betrays the Slavers and uses the Unsullied to sack the city. She later conquers the city of Yunkai and gains the service of Daario Naharis, who commands a large mercenary company. As she marches on Meereen, she learns that one of her companions is actually Barristan Selmy, a knight of Robert the Usurper's Kingsguard, and that Jorah had spied on her earlier. Disgusted, she sends the pair on a suicide mission to capture Meereen. When the mission is successful, Barristan asks to be forgiven for his deception, but Jorah refuses to ask forgiveness. So Daenerys banishes him, unwilling to abandon the slaves she freed, fearing they would return to bondage. Dany decides to stay in Meereen. Thank you for watching. Brought to you by WikiVidi.com. Please like and subscribe below. Please like and subscribe below.